Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we're going to show you just a quick rundown of a few different things. We're going to look at a couple of suspension issues on the Green Monster here, and then I'm going to show you a few modifications that I did to my diesel truck over there and see what you guys think. So here's what's going on. Right now, this front left tire seems to be setting off the trouble codes for the stability track, which doesn't make any sense because the bearings and everything are fine. So if I start these, I'm using an oil can to prop you guys up. But essentially, there's this play here. But when I do it to this tire, it does the same to that. It's almost like the steering rack is loose. That's not the case over here. This is what's rattling. But that doesn't explain the stability track issue. The only thing we gotta do is go get in alignment and hope it fixes it. I don't know. Something to do with the brakes. The brakes are not making a whole lot of noise. I will say, the only reason I think it's the brakes is since I bought this truck, I've never replaced the rotors, only the pads, mostly due to money and time and several other factors. Now the real question is do we upgrade these rotors and pads and brake calipers? Or do we just stick with the factory ones and just replace parts? Because the last thing I want to do is replace parts and have them fail again. Because I've already replaced this rotor, replaced this caliper because it exploded. I've replaced that caliper twice because it exploded, and they were both factory calipers. The rear calipers have never been replaced, but the bleed nuts on both are fucking broken. They're stripped out because I've bled the brakes so many times. So, I don't know what to do. Video. I would have both seen and heard it clicking. So maybe it's at full grip. Or maybe it's at full compression when it hits. Because something's hitting something else. And I can't quite... Yeah, I'm thinking probably getting alignment. Alignment pins. The original ones fell out. And I tried replacing them, and I think this is the only one that remains. And then on this side I have 10mm bolts holding it together, but as you can see, the bolts, they tend to get a little too close to this trailing bushing and end up touching the bolts. So I can only put the camber caster That's as low as camber caster as I can put it. If I go any lower than this, then these bolts will touch, and then I can't get proper camber caster because the original bolts sheared off because they were just a button head style pin that was just press fit in here. And these bushings over time, rubbing them up against them like this, caused it to fucking shear off, and then I couldn't keep my alignment worth a damn. And I finally got it to sit square, and my caster camber is pretty good, but my alignment toe angle is all off. Same thing on this side. You see bolts over here. I think 1 out of 2 is visible over here. You can see the front one's good, and I think this back one's actually on its last leg. I think this one's actually loose, but it's on there. But the way these are installed is so shitty. I would have to take the whole upper control arm off. I'd have to take this whole upper control arm off, put new pins in, and weld the pins from this side, and then grind it flush. So that way I can get these caster cambers correct. Because these from Dirt King work great at keeping camber exactly where I need it without moving, but the pins shear off, which is why I have bolts over here. And if you're wondering about that, that's because I decided to go with the Market Book faceplates and try and save some money and buy some box appropriate shocks. But that is the 2014, and those are for 2019. Unfortunately, the top hat is backwards. This top hat needs to be either spun around, or I gotta drill new holes for these shocks. But you'll notice one shock is all put together all nice and pretty. This other one sheared off, and the compressive strength pulled this, or me driving the truck, forced the pin back into the shock. It's stuck, it sheared off the threads on this. That's what I get for buying shit from Facebook. Just hitting a couple of bumps and it sheared those threads. Let me know if anyone's ever seen a shock body come out of the threading and force itself up into the shock body and get stuck there. My personal thought is these shocks weren't pressurized and or charged properly. So now I've got to find a way to box them up and ship them back to Fox Motorsports and basically have them completely rebuilt. That one shock, they're probably just gonna have to send me a replacement because I paid some guy on Marketplace like $1,200 to replace those, to get shocks. And he said I could just turn the top hat around, and there is physically no way to turn that top hat. They have a wrist pin retention sleeve inside that once you take the bolt out, the retention sleeve can't come out. And I'm worried that I'm gonna have to drill holes through the shock tower in this truck to get those shocks to sit right. And I don't know if it's worth it to do that, or if it's worth it to just buy new shocks for this truck and put them in. Those are 33s, those are 35s. As you can tell, the 35s sit quite a bit taller and quite a bit nicer than the 33s. That truck has 29.5s. I'm planning on swapping out for 33s because those are 20-inch rims, but I don't know if it'll fit 12-inch wides on. Actually, I think these are 11.5 and those are 12.5s. So I think these will fit on that truck. So basically, I just got to buy 2 more, and then I can swap 4 33s for that and give that truck a little bit of a lift, and then crank the torsion keys, and it should sit flat. and hopefully it should level that truck off. If not, I'm gonna have to get a full leveling kit, and that'll be another video. I also found out when I bought that truck, the dealership failed to mention, but it's got a couple of modifications from the dealership that I didn't realize when I bought it. It's kind of cool. Not very often do you see a dealership providing bilsteins. Might be kind of hard to see. Bilstein. They also installed helper springs. Bilsteins in the rear. And they installed these helper springs, which don't do shit for axle wrap. So in order to help the axle wrap, I'm going to have to get either a torsion bar or a ladder bar system for that truck, because nearly 1,000 foot-pounds of torque and 450 horsepower, that truck has really bad axle wrap. And this one over here, sitting at almost 600 horsepower and probably about 550 torque, has suspension problems like the motherfucker. I pull trailers a lot, and I didn't want to struggle pulling trailers with the gas motor. So, how about you guys crawl down here with me? So I installed this dual fuel filter setup from VSE. It's a great system. If you have a 2019 and earlier, this is the way to go, because they provide you with a new bracket. 2020 and newer, they want you to use the old bracket, but look how this bracket's mounted. It's at this weird angle, and it pushes these literally right up against the def tank. It's sitting on the def tank. I had to loosen the bolts to get these filters to sit square so I don't cross thread them, and then come back in with that little tiny space up there and thread those bolts. It was a pain in the ass. It took me 6 hours to put that in. This is the old fuel filter. This is what it looks like. And on the bottom, you'll see there, that's a T45. And that 36 millimeter socket, because this is plastic and it has like some kind of wax or something on it, and you can tell they're like chamfered. I busted my knuckles just to get about 1/8 of a turn on this thing before it finally came off. Before it was finally loose enough that I could pull it by hand. Because you have to turn it almost 1/8 of an inch just to get it loose so you can turn it off by hand. Everything up to this point is wrench. Big ass wrench. Recommend using an impact if you're planning on replacing this entirely. It took me 2 hours just to take the old filter off because of how tight this space is. If this def tank wasn't here, it wouldn't be a problem. Thanks, EPA. And then over here, we have this beautiful state-of-the-art PPE fuel filter system. This canister is probably 8 inches long. It's kind of hard to tell. That canister is 8 inches long, and it's for oil filtration. This should give me better better oil filtration for the motor. But I had to install this PPE. They call this like a fuel cooler, but it's full of coolant. I'm sorry I didn't get footage of putting these on, because I spent 3 hours under the truck putting this together, and I seriously doubt you guys want footage of me jacking this, cursing and getting myself covered in oil. Just for comparison, this is how big the old oil filter is that came off of that truck. I would recommend Wix XP. They make good filters, but because nobody makes a filter big enough for that truck, you have to get the PPE one. If you guys want to see more modifications on this diesel truck, let me know. If you guys want to see more modifications on the green monster right here, let me know. And if you guys want to see more modifications on the wannabe super sport, let me know. I shouldn't call it a wannabe super sport, because it basically is a super sport. It's just an 06, but I've spent a lot of time and money making it look pretty and making it do fun things, and it won't turn on. Let me know what you guys think.